I had always believed I could handle anything life threw at me. But that year, everything seemed to fall apart at once. My job vanished without warning. A relationship I had cherished crumbled, and bills stacked up faster than I could manage. I felt trapped in a cycle of failure, my confidence shattered, and my sense of purpose gone. Every morning, I woke up with a heavy heart, dreading what the day would bring. The world seemed indifferent to my struggles, and even my closest friends were too busy with their own lives to notice my silent cries for help. I walked the streets aimlessly, feeling invisible and small. Even small tasks felt impossible, and a hopelessness I had never known consumed me. One evening, I sat on a deserted park bench as the sun dipped below the horizon, my mind racing with doubts and regrets. I kept asking myself how I had ended up here, feeling utterly defeated. The thought that my life was over crossed my mind repeatedly. Maybe I'd reached the end of the road. Maybe there was no way out. But amidst the despair, a quiet spark of determination lingered. Somewhere deep inside, I refused to completely give up. I didn't know how or when, but I instinctively felt that change was possible. That tiny spark of hope became my anchor, a reminder that life isn't always over, even when it feels impossible. Little did I know, a chance encounter with a stranger in the coming days would ignite that spark into a flame, turning my darkest moments into the beginning of an unexpected journey that would change everything. A few days later, I found myself wandering aimlessly through the streets, lost in my thoughts. That's when I noticed someone sitting on a nearby bench, calmly sketching in a small notebook. There was something about their presence, quiet, grounded, almost magnetic, that made me pause. Without knowing why, I sat a few feet away. After a brief silence, the stranger spoke, their voice gentle yet firm. "You look like someone carrying a heavy burden." I gave a bitter laugh and shook my head, unsure why I felt compelled to respond. But something in their demeanor made it feel safe. Slowly, almost reluctantly, I began to speak about my job loss, my broken relationship, the suffocating feeling that my life had ended before it had even begun. The stranger listened intently, without judgment or interruption, nodding as I poured out my frustrations and fears. Then, instead of offering empty reassurances, they shared simple, practical guidance. They helped me see possibilities where I had only seen dead ends. They asked thought-provoking questions that made me rethink my approach to the problems I thought were insurmountable. Before leaving, they handed me a small notebook. "Write down one small step you can take tomorrow," they said. "Even the tiniest step can spark a change." Their smile was warm, encouraging, and somehow gave me a sense of direction I hadn't felt in months. That brief encounter felt ordinary on the surface, but it planted a seed. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope, a belief that maybe, just maybe, things could improve. Little did I know, that simple act of kindness from a complete stranger would become the catalyst for a journey that would completely transform my life. The next morning, I picked up the notebook the stranger had given me. I stared at the blank page, unsure where to begin. Then I remembered their advice. One small step. I decided my first step would be something simple, reaching out to a friend I had been avoiding and asking for advice about job opportunities. It felt awkward at first. I hadn't admitted my struggles to anyone in weeks, and now I was exposing my vulnerability. But when my friend responded with understanding and encouragement, A sense of relief washed over me. That small action, seemingly insignificant, created a spark of momentum. For the first time in months, I felt I was moving forward. Over the following days, I continued the stranger's exercise. Each morning, I wrote down a single small step, updating my resume, applying to one job, attending a networking event, or even just leaving the house to explore new opportunities. These steps weren't dramatic, but each one chipped away at the weight of hopelessness I had carried. As I completed each task, my confidence grew. I began noticing opportunities I had overlooked before. Friends offering freelance work, old colleagues suggesting projects, and even new avenues I hadn't considered. It was as if the stranger's guidance had opened my eyes, helping me see the potential in situations I had dismissed as hopeless. By the end of the week, I had a growing sense of purpose. My steps were small, but they were building something larger. Momentum. The despair that had once consumed me now felt like a distant memory. I realized that change didn't always happen overnight. Sometimes it started with one act of courage, one step taken with hope. Little did I know, these small steps would soon lead to a turning point, an encounter that would change my life forever. A few weeks after I started taking small steps, I received an unexpected email from a company I had once admired, but never thought I'd have a chance with. They were offering a freelance project, just a small assignment, but it was a foot in the door. My heart raced as I remembered the stranger's advice. Even the tiniest step can spark a change. I threw myself into the project, determined to prove my skills and reliability. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. Every completed task built my confidence, and I began networking with people who recognized my dedication and talent. Slowly, doors that had seemed permanently closed started to open. Then one afternoon, I ran into the stranger again. They were sitting in a cafe, sketching as always, and this time, they smiled knowingly. "Looks like the small steps are paying off," they said. I nodded, feeling gratitude I couldn't put into words. Their brief act of kindness had set everything in motion, giving me the courage to take control of my life again. Within a month, that initial project turned into a bigger opportunity, a full-time role with responsibilities I hadn't imagined I'd handle so soon. My career, which had seemed shattered beyond repair, was gaining momentum, and my personal life too was starting to stabilize. I realized that the stranger hadn't done the work for me. They had only shown me the path. It was my perseverance, my small steps, and my willingness to act that transformed my life. That encounter had changed everything. What had once felt like the end of my story had become the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, purpose, and the realization that even in our darkest moments, a single person, a single act can make all the difference. Looking back, it's hard to believe how much changed in such a short time. The despair that had consumed me seemed like a distant memory, replaced by a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. The stranger's simple act of kindness, a few words, a listening ear, and a small notebook, had ignited a journey I could never have imagined. I realized that life doesn't always hand us solutions. Often, it places us at crossroads, leaving us unsure of which step to take. But when we act, even in small ways, we set change into motion. Every email sent, every call made, every project completed, no matter how minor it seemed, built momentum. Slowly, hope became tangible. Slowly, I began to believe in myself again. More than the career opportunities, more than the professional success, I learned a deeper lesson. Connection matters. A single person's compassion, attentiveness, and belief can ripple through someone's life in ways we can't always predict. That stranger reminded me that we're not truly alone, even in our darkest hours, and that sometimes hope comes from the most unexpected places. Today, I stand stronger, wiser, and grateful, not just for the opportunities that followed, but for the reminder that life can change in a single moment. My story is proof that despair isn't permanent, and that the smallest gestures can spark transformation beyond imagination. To anyone watching this, remember, when it feels like your life is over, don't give up. One step, one act, one connection can change everything. My life was broken, and then, because of a stranger's kindness, it was rebuilt in ways I could never have dreamed. And now, I carry that lesson with me every single day. Thank you so much for watching this story till the end. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned something from it. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, full of life lessons, drama, and emotions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss an update. Your support means the world, and it helps me keep bringing you more inspiring and unforgettable stories. Stay tuned because more amazing stories are on the way.